All right, guess I'm on. Should be. All right, well, let's do it. What's going on, people? Welcome to Let's Speak. My channel. This is Let's Speak. You know what I'm saying? Or welcome to Let's Speak is the same thing because you are stepping into my dimension. The dimension of my creation, or whatever the fuck you want to put it. This video is gonna be a follow up to the last video that I had. I believe it was titled "The Things That You Need to Know Before you embark on your spiritual path, or as you go on it, however the fuck you want to put it. But those are vitals for you to understand. Um, so in my last video, I believe I talked about us being travelers, and I also mentioned about having a fear of God, which is pretty much, I didn't put it in those terms of having the fear of God, but also I'll take a minute just to explain that a little bit too, just so you have a good understanding of what it is to have the fear of God. So now, because I remember, there are certain things that would help you to sort of like acknowledge a higher power. So when you talk about having the fear of God, it's pretty much that's exactly what that is. It's acknowledging a higher power. Like one of the example that I used was knowing that you're gonna die, right? Which is a fact. Everybody here is going to die. So again, the purpose was not for you to be afraid of death, but for you to acknowledge, okay, there has to be something greater here. So this is a little bit of background pretty much. And then I also used the example of vacation, which I kind of like didn't quite like. But the main idea in about going to a vacation at a location was pretty much, you wouldn't be concerned. The purpose is your vacation. So therefore, I wouldn't be going to Jamaica on vacation and trying to get into political reform. You see what I'm saying? Or even to be um, implicated in everybody's else's life, or their society, or how they function. Now, for knowledge purposes, as I'm exploring as part of my vacation, I will do all of these things. However, it wouldn't be my main focus. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm not going to go to Jamaica, on vacation to make sure, what I'm saying, let's just say hypothetically, niggas don't smoke weed, or niggas smoke weed, or whatever the fuck the political, whatever the fuck it is, or Haiti, whatever the fuck, or whatever the example is. So I guess that's what I was saying. I kind of like didn't quite like that example, but I guess I wanted to clarify it a little bit. Now, the thing that I want to talk about here, the other thing that you definitely need to know is that you will suffer. Becoming spiritual, getting on that spiritual path, you will suffer. You will feel lonely and you will suffer. There's no way around that. Now, I do curse, you know what I'm saying? Because I was watching another YouTuber that says that. I'm like, oh, I'm taking that one. I really like it. So if this is your first time here, I do curse. You know what I'm saying? This may not be for you. However, and I also use Jesus or the Bible references. I know that I talk about spirituality here. Depending if this is your first time watching, I'm gonna take the time to break this down a little bit. Okay. So the Bible reference, the Jesus reference that I'm referring to, it's not in the physical sense. Okay. So now, if you do your research, if you learn about the Bible, because the one thing I noticed about people that are becoming conscious is that they were replacing one demon by another demon. They're replacing one evil by another evil. In other words, you still in that extremity. You living a fucking extreme life. You wild nigga. You went from being 100% you know what I'm saying, the Bible, and like, fuck the Bible. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's not the point. You know, the thing about the Bible is not, there's a lot of gems in it. The problem is, it's the interpretation of the Bible. It does make a difference. It does make a whole lot of difference. And also, the Jesus stories, just so you know, a little bit of background, is talking about you. There was a book by the 12 Power of Men, or the 12 whatever, but it's by, the author is Fillmore. I can't recall the first name, but the last name is Fillmore. You ought to get with that, because what he does in that book, he tells you about the 12 disciples and how they represent part of you. And of course, Jesus being the 13th, you know, it's your higher self. When you talk about the Christ consciousness, that's what we're talking about here. So when you see me referring to the Bible, slow down, slow down. It's all fucking spiritual. And just so you know too, like, that's why for me personally, I don't even know what Bible these motherfuckers are reading. Because if you're reading the Bible, even in a literal sense, it should kick a little bit of something in you, right? So I'll give you a perfect example, right? In the Old Testament, right before I get into, you know what I'm saying, like, people are always talking about God, love, 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 and all that shit. But that's not what you see in the Old Testament. This nigga's jealous. He's dramatic. This nigga would not go with just a simple fucking answer to anything. It has to be dramatic. Even if you take a look at the Moses story, right? This nigga said on purpose, God saying, that I purposefully hardened his heart. Speaking of Pharaoh. You know, because Moses pretty much giving you a background. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody knows the story. I don't have to, you know, just so you understand. Moses was trying to save the Israelites, you know what I'm saying? And then the Pharaoh wouldn't allow them to go. So it's like, God told this nigga, go ahead and save him. But yet, you're not going to save him like that. I'm going to make sure that I harden his heart just so he could show his power. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not the all lovey-dovey God that people are talking about. You know, as even the church, it's like when you read the Bible and what the church is telling you, they give you two separate entities. And of course, they go on by saying, now it's a New Testament. Jesus said this, said that. You know what I'm saying? And on the same token, God also referred to himself as the same that was, I mean, you know, I can't recall exactly how the shit went, but it's the same as yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So do you see what I'm saying? So even if you read that shit, there's red flags all over it. Do you see what I'm saying? So anyway, if you're reading it physically though, or by the letters, do you see what I'm saying? If you're reading it by the letters, you'll never get it. So that's why you have to become spiritual. And the best way to understand the Bible, you got to reach out. You got to branch out. You have to go outside. You got to learn about all different, and because they are all different aspects of the same thing. That's why a spiritual person, you cannot associate yourself with a group, with any type of shit, because you got to learn from everybody. Like I learned about the Masonic, name it, the Gnostics, Buddha, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, I got shit. The Sufis, the fucking, name it. Voodoo, all that shit, it's all part of it. Because they're all beats and pieces, and now you're able to put all that shit together. But anyway, I digress. I didn't want to, you know, just to give you a little bit of background. So when you say, you know, Jesus said, so you understand what I'm talking about. So we're not referring to the religious aspect of it or the church aspect, because religion simply has two meanings. When you do something religiously, it means you do it on a daily basis. It's a ritual. You're doing it all the time. The other meaning of religion has nothing to do with church, niggas. It means to reconnect, to reunite. So in other words, you got to go through religion to go back home, to see God. In other words, you have to reconnect with yourself, the essence of the person that you are. Because as you come to earth, you somehow got disconnected. So it's kind of like we're doing the inverse or the inverted. It's like, do you see what I'm saying? As you descended, now for you to ascend, you're collecting your information again. And that's going to make you lighter. That's going to make you getting into more conscious. And that's how you rise. You're ascending. Ascending, you lost all your fucking memories. And then I'm also going to talk about that too, because all of that sort of like tied up into the vacation shit, because we already knew what the fuck was going to happen. You're going to get a baby brain. You're going to lose your memory. All of these things. That's why we have spirit guidance. Why the fuck are they guiding us for? Why do we have guardian angels? Okay? So for you to have guides, that's because you need direction. But as you're reconnecting, understanding that you are also spirit, you are also them as they are you, that's how they're guiding you, and that's how you're ascending, or you recollecting, reconnecting to who you are. But anyway, so it all tied up into the vacation shit that I was talking about, as far as understanding, the place, if you're gonna go, you want to know about, is it safe for me to go there, or what part I should be going to, and all of this shit, right? So it all tied up as far as, I don't even know why the fuck I'm mentioning it. Okay, that has something else. Okay, I'm tripping. Maybe I just have to say it. Hey, you know how the spirit works, nigga. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, nigga. So wait a minute here. Gotta get that juice, you heard? So now fast forward, right? So the other thing that you really want to know on your spiritual path is that you will suffer. Suffer. In other words, now that I got the Jesus shit out of the way, now Jesus said, which is your higher self, your consciousness, you want to follow me, you have to pick up your cross. So when we talk about suffering, what kind of suffering are we talking about? Self-love, baby. So as you become conscious, here's another one too. Jesus said, I'm not here to bring peace, but in so many ways to bring destruction, because, pretty much turning son and mothers against each other. Do you see what I'm saying? What that simply means is that, this is what I'm saying, you got to look at it spiritually. What that simply means is, as you become conscious, you're becoming your own person. Guess what's happening? And a lot of you who have been through the spiritual path, you would understand that, you would know it's you can't escape it. The fact that, either your family members, you're going to have to detach yourself from them. And you're going to become a problem for them too. Because now you're thinking differently. And by you becoming a problem too, it's nothing personal. It's just that this is something that they have not been exposed to. And the fact that this kind of knowledge, that's why I like the definition of hidden culture or esoteric. I mean, esoteric simply means, the inside definition of certain things. You know what I'm saying? Looking at it esoterically or looking at it spiritually. right? But the thing I don't like about, the definition of spirituality in the sense of it's a hidden culture. I mean, I understand what it is, but it's the word hidden. If you don't understand what it means, it could throw you off. Because hidden simply means it's not in the literal sense as like something's being kept away from you. That's not what it is. It's not kept away from you, but it simply is hidden because you got to go inside and look for it. So what I relate to a little bit more, or what I like to say is that you have to remove your inner obstacles for you to get to it. Because there's nothing hidden when Sifra Minnell is speaking. I get that shit. When Bobby Hammond or Brother Panic is speaking, I get all of that shit. And even if you don't get it, certain things that they do say, as you grow, you go back, you understand it better, or you finally get what they were talking about. So it's nothing hidden, or maybe not in the sense of being kept away from you, but it's hidden in the sense of, you have to go in. You know what I'm saying? And I would rather simply say you have to remove or you got to be in certain spaces first for you to get there. Hence, that was the whole purpose of the motherfucking Egyptians having the whole, what is it called? The mystery schools. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm using the right term here. It'll probably come to me. But the whole idea of the mystery schools and not everybody was allowed was because you were not ready. And they know when you're not ready. Just like I could tell when somebody else is not ready. Because your ego is doing the talking. You're not looking at it from a spiritual perspective. But anyway, I digress. I guess it all come together. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, you will suffer. You got to know this. You're going to pick up your cross. You will suffer. You're going to be lonely. Because as you changing your frequency or your vibration, but check this out though. That's the process. Okay, but eventually you will meet people that are just like you. You know, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be fine. But that's gonna take some time. To the point where you're gonna feel lonely. And if you used to date, you're gonna go for like a long time without dating. That's all part of the fucking process. And by you going through the process, what's happening is you're honoring the Spirit of God in you. You're acknowledging the Spirit. And which I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm too much. I need to slow down a little bit. But just so you understand where the suffering will be coming from, it's going to come from you having a better understanding. And people around you not having that type of understanding. Because you remember, opposite does not attract. You got to know this. Well, you don't have to. I don't give a fuck. But for me, I have to understand it. The opposite does not attract. So once you start raising your vibration, everything that was not on the same level as you that you were attracting before, it's going to disappear. It's going to fall off. So that's where the suffering is going to come from. So you're going to lose friends, family members. They will not understand you. And there you are at the very beginning. We all went through it. I know for me, I wanted to share that shit. There was another parable that Jesus used. The kingdom of God is like a man who discovered, like a pot of gold. You're like, God damn. You're ready to share that shit. It doesn't work that way. It's for you. Oh, you will suffer. Woo! You gonna suffer, motherfucker. Shit. That's just the way it is. There's no way around that. So understand the suffering is going to be coming from a better understanding. And that's why, I mean, even all other most philosophers talk about this, being a wise man, the things that comes with it. Oh, it's painful, baby. It's painful. It's painful. Not to be part of society as they would want you to be, and that's when you're going to start truly raising your self value, your self esteem. Because part of the spiritual path, it's all about you. So therefore, as you're going to be suffering, and you're going to have to find meaning in those sufferings, you got to find meaning in your suffering. You got to find meaning in it, because that's going to define you. Because this is a whole different walk, baby. It's a whole different walk. So if you understand what I'm saying, and if you can make the connection, that is why the Jesus story is you. Every single one of us is Jesus. And the whole story about dying and resurrecting, being born again, is talking about you, your path, becoming the Christ. Or the Buddha called it the awakening, I believe it is. Because Buddha means to wake up. That's simply what it means, to wake up or to be awake. But to wake up from what then? This is going to be a different video. I'm going to talk about this probably right after that, because, you know what I'm saying, I figured, I don't want it to get, because spirituality is so more multi-dimensional, and there's so many things that go hand in hand. I don't want to lose you motherfuckers too much. You know what I'm saying? Or, because I could go from different angles too. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's the whole purpose of being multi-dimensional, but they all come together. You see what I'm saying? So, so to get back to the suffering, the solitude, the loneliness, it's all of it has a purpose. And its purpose pretty much is for you to, it's going to help you to raise your vibration, your self-worth. How much do you really believe in that shit? And that's when now you won't be walking by sight, but you'll be walking by faith. In other words, you're walking by not what you're seeing anymore, but by the Spirit. You having a cosmic view now. Now, if before you used to look at this computer as a physical, physical matter, now you're looking at this is particle, this is energy, having a different height sign. I mean, about fucking everything. So these are some of the things. I guess I'll probably have different, chapters or different. I'll break it down different steps, certain things that you need to know, because even if you don't know them, as you get on the path, you're gonna find out. I'm just giving you a heads up. I mean, you can't escape it. You can't escape it, baby. There's nowhere around it. It's inevitable, whatever the fuck. You can't escape it. So, with that being said, let me see if there's anything else that I probably forgot to mention about the suffering, because you will suffer. You will suffer. You will suffer. Woo! Yeah, baby. Yeah, I did. I did. You know what I'm saying? I paid my due. I paid my due, and that's gonna be with your family members, friends, everything. You're gonna have a different perspective. You know what I'm saying? And that's the reason why, your social, society, you're gonna look at it differently. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I could even use this example for me. It's like the more spiritual I become, the less sociable in so many ways that I become. You know, it's like, because I remember back in Philadelphia, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, sports, it's a big thing, especially football. You know what I'm saying? Or in general, dumb shit. Like, why the fuck, like, you know, like, to have a social conversation, if you're going out to a bar, wherever the fuck you're going, motherfuckers talk about sports. Like it's the shit to talk about. Such and such got traded, went to a different team, or what the fuck do you think that's gonna bring to that team? Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? So as you're raising your vibration, it's like, you know, like when somebody talks to me about this thing, I don't give a fuck. 365 days of games. Are you not entertained? Nigga, are you not entertained? 365 days of games, man. And how are you feeding your mind? I mean, there's nothing against the game. I mean, don't get me fucked up. But it's becoming your idol. You're worshiping, false idols, baby. So you're going to be withdrawn from all of this bullshit. Oh, it's going to be lonely. It's going to be lonely. You will suffer. So I guess the first part of the first video that I made, I talked about what the fuck is that? So many oh yeah, I believe I did talk about was it a riddle that no, it wasn't a riddle. It was the Jesus temptation when he talked about um I can't recall exactly, the sentence, but pretty much what he was talking about is that man cannot you cannot live of bread alone. So we have to feed your mind, you have to feed your spirit, feed your soul. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, so now you know, I'm suffering, man. Buckle up. But everything is gonna be fine, nigga. Don't worry. It may take time, depending on where you're coming from too, depending on where you were with it too. Because when we talk about destiny or your reaction, it all depends on the light that you have, right? Some of us may have to do a little more work, others not so much work, depending on where they at, spiritually, you know. And not necessarily spiritually, but depending on where you at, depending on what spaces that you're in. Let me just put it this way. Because the reason why I don't want to say spiritually, because it wasn't necessarily that some people could be more spiritual than you and you are being less spiritual than them, but the amount of work that it gets for you to become spiritual, period, may be different. So that's why I'm referring to spaces instead of, spirituality. That's why that didn't really click to me, and that's why I'm saying spaces. You see what I'm saying? Because you're depending on what kind of space that you in, it will determine your action. In other words, you ever heard of the saying, you know better, you do better? Well, you knowing better, that determines the spaces that you're in. Depending on how deep you were into fucking religion or the church or their Jesus, not knowing that it was you. Depending how deep it is, so you're going to suffer even more because now you're going to have to overcome all of that shit. If you truly want to do the work. But the one thing I realized, and I kind of went through it, and it happens to everybody. It happens to everybody, and I don't think it's going to come with time. There's a process to it too. Just like you grow as a child, when you become spiritual, you'll be growing as well. So it is a process. Don't beat yourself up. Like even though I'm saying like, you live in a wild life as far as the extremity, you went from one extreme to another extreme. It's a process because I went through it myself, where not too much in reference of the Bible for me, because I already knew a lot of things about the Bible, that I wasn't taking literally to begin with. But needless to say, it doesn't mean that I understood everything that I was reading then. Definitely. So in that sense, because I was in that space, I didn't have to do too much work on that part. But for somebody else, let's just say, who never, who was following the Bible by the letters, it's just gonna be tough. Not just tough, but you're gonna be like, fuck this shit. And I see it with a lot of conscious people, quote unquote conscious people. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, true consciousness, you use everything. What we're talking about when we talk about even the Jesus shit, what they do is, just like I was explaining to one of my brothers the other day, it's having a white man picture on it. And that's where the whole mind control gets into it. Not letting you know this is your shit, because Jesus is fucking Heru or Horus, which is, or what's the other, the Anunnaki bullshit. Well, not bullshit, but I can't recall. Was it the Emerald Tablet? But there's a story about Gilgamesh, the whole Gilgamesh shit. That's Jesus again. So it's not a new story. Do you see what I'm saying? And the problem that I realize with people that are into the Bible is that there you go, you have a book that you put all your life in, but yet you never bothered to learn about the book, the history of it, where it came from, why is this? You know what I'm saying? Because that's what kind of makes sense. So you're not even approaching it from a fucking wanting to learn perspective. It's more on a mind control approach. As you can see, it's very emotional, but not so much of really wanting to understand wanting to understand the words, if that makes any sense. Because if that's what you truly want to do, I'll assure you, you'll find it. And the Bible will take you outside of the Bible too. Because certain things wouldn't make sense to you. Do you see what I'm saying? So again, this thing has to do with spirituality. Everything is spiritual. Everything is, depending on how you're looking at it. So with that being said, and I don't want to talk too much because I could go into different things here. The bottom line is simple. Just know that to get on your spiritual path, you got to know, you got to feed your soul. And you're feeding your soul by doing what? By knowledge, by learning more. Learning more about what? Like I always talk about. I like to call it as heart knowledge. Now, what is heart knowledge? Heart knowledge is pretty much the foundation of spirituality. But what is it? What is that foundation? It's understanding, it's approaching, is getting the knowledge that feeds your soul. Example, I know I'm kind of like going in circles, but it would be best for me to give you an example. An example, right? Shit, I gave you many examples. Well, I'm just gonna use this one. Personally, for me, right? I went through so many things in life like we all do. But when I say so many things, it doesn't have to be bad things. I'm just saying we all go through different experiences. Every time you learn, every time you're alive, nigga, you breathing, you're learning different things, right? But the one thing I came to understand is that I never understood anything when I wasn't ready for it. It's always when I'm ready for it, only then I understand it. What do I mean by that? Have you ever listened to somebody and you're like, what the fuck are they talking about? And as you get older, physically, but most importantly, as you start to realize you're growing internally, and you're like, that's what the fuck so and so was telling me about. But I was a knucklehead not listening to that. Don't beat yourself up. You weren't ready. So understanding this, that's why when we talk about spirituality, or every occultist will know this. You know, that's why we don't argue with your ass, because you will get it when you're ready. So understanding that will change your perception. Now it's no longer me trying to convince you about what I'm talking about. So in other words, your ego now is taking a back seat. So you need to learn the knowledge that would help you to maintain your ego. And that's what I call the heart knowledge. Now, understanding that, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to call you stupid either. Not because I'm a nice guy, or not because I don't say stupid shit, but only simply because I understand. And that understanding has become part of my life. And that's also another reason why the spiritual man, which is a virtuous man, never identified self or himself with fucking virtues. But the inferior motherfucker always talk about virtue, always talk about morality. But that's a whole different thing. That's a whole, look at all the fucking spiritual teachers. They are transparent, nigga. Honesty. All those virtuous shit that these other stupid motherfuckers are talking about, I'm living that. The love they talking about, I am it. And every teacher, every spiritual person, as you learn that knowledge, those heart knowledge, again, helps you to transcend or to maintain your ego, and also to transcend or reflect those spiritual gifts that you have inside of you. That's why I don't judge niggas. That's why I have love for niggas that are even stupid. Why the fuck not? First of all, like I said, you got to be in that space so you can get it. What why am I gonna be mad at you, dog? But if I'm gonna look at it through the intellect or the ego, I will call you all kinds of names. Why can't you understand this? This is common sense. Do you see what I'm saying? And even common sense is not common sense. It's everything that everybody else agreed on. So when you become spiritual, it's like a flying bird. Now you're looking at everything on the floor or on the ground, because now you have a cosmic view. You have a better understanding of things. That's why spirituality is the ultimate intelligence ever. Ever. So if you think you're smart and you're not spiritual, you only have fragments, pieces and beats of information, but not the whole, but not that 2020. You don't have the 2020, dog. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, we're gonna stop it here. You will suffer me. Get ready to suffer me. Yes. You'll be lonely. You will suffer. And and that's where the pain's gonna come from. But it's very important for you to understand, or to give meanings to your suffering. Oh, here's something else too. Speaking of heart knowledge, right? Giving meaning to your suffering. in a sense, we all know, we all learn through experiences. What the fuck is a bad experience if you learn from it? I'll let you marinate on that. That's when you start seeing beauty in everything. Because if I could learn from something bad that happened to me, how really bad is that thing? See, a lot of you people are looking for just the light. You're not looking for the dark. Because you don't know the light is in the dark. There's no yin and yang. When you say you're a light worker, but yet you're not a dark worker, a true light worker, it's a dark and night worker. And that's when you got to dance with your shadow. That's when you got to understand the dark side of yourself. And I'm just using the example of simply, understanding, like we're talking about a bad experience here. So that's another hard knowledge that would help you with that. That should be the next step to give meaning to your suffering, because all of your suffering, like I said before, it's you honoring the spirit. You feel me? It's creating character in you. It's now you walking by faith. It's you truly knowing what you know. Your intuition now, it's taking a front seat. In other words, you are the sheep to Christ, to the Spirit. That's why we are servant of God, man. I'm Jehovah's Witness, nigga. I'm just witnessing this. I'm just a witness. But you gotta, this is all spiritual shit. Because all the meditation, everything that you're doing, is pretty much for you to remove the ego and let the spirit burst out. So you got to get on the heart knowledge. The heart knowledge is pretty much everything that gives you a greater understanding, general understanding of what life or how life works. Another example, school versus life lessons. Do you need school to be successful? It can help, but it's not about school. It can help as far as the teaching, the learning, the experience, but there's something greater in that, which is true life, interacting with people. So how do you define yourself as somebody who went to school or you went to fucking Harvard? You need a lollipop, nigga? How does that, you see what I'm saying? So in so many different levels, those are the knowledge that you should be seeking for to maintain your ego and to reflect your spirituality. So you've got to understand this as you're getting into your spiritual world. Because what I see happening is that a lot of people are looking at the Bible, but making it's like they're looking at spirituality, but they're making it physical. Can't do that. Now, granted, the physical is also spiritual, but that's on a different level. That's why in one of my videos when I was saying, it's not about Maya, it's an illusion, but it is not the illusion itself. And let's break down the word illusion. Illusion doesn't mean it's not real. It means your perception of it is not what it is. So when you're saying fuck Earth, for some of you niggas that are saying all that shit, or fuck the human body, or fuck everything else, it's not about that. It's about transcendence. It's about using form, because Even the physical is teaching you how to go inside. Nature, that's why, you know, all the fucking Egyptians were using nature as a tool to go in or as a tool to teach you about life. So that's the true purpose of Maya or Earth or this fucking illusion. It's really teaching you how to go inside. But most of us got lost in the sauce or in the pasta. You get lost by identifying yourself with that instead of using it as a tool. So when you understand, that's why it's not about living a wild life or having one extremity to another extremity, you know what I'm saying, or replacing an evil by another evil, because ultimately you're by you approaching spirituality with a fucking intellectual state of mind, it's the same thing that you did with the Bible. Now you're saying fuck the Bible. But spirituality is everywhere. If you know how to see it. But once you're being born again, now you have a cosmic view. Now you could see gold in dirt. That's what it means. You see gold in dirt. Or they say, how the fuck did I say? Beauty, it's in the eye of the beholder. But you gotta become beautiful first, good looking. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm so good looking. Look at me. Heart knowledge, you will suffer. Then the next step, maybe I'll talk about that a little bit more, but you're going to have to find meaning in your suffering. And the heart knowledge is going to help you with that. You know what I'm saying? By you understanding, unifying the yin and the yang, by you knowing that if you're learning from bad experience, how bad is that experience? But then there's a part of you that's suffering, you're going to get into the ego. That's what the ego does. And that's why I think Brother Panic did use an example like that too. Or there was a movie where it says, was it Memento? Or is it or was it The Matrix? Either one of them, I don't remember. But the guy technically says, my body felt pain. I didn't feel it. You know, and you got to understand. Now, the things that, and I'm going to be talking about that, I got to make a special video on that. You know, I'm going to talk about food, yoga, science of the breath, all the shit that those motherfuckers are talking about that are spiritual shit that are just tools. But, you know, they stop on that. You see what I'm saying? Because, or even psychedelic. And let me touch on that real quick, right? The purpose of ayahuasca is that it helps you to acknowledge the higher side of you. That's why you see a lot of people, it unlocks certain energy in you. But once it is unlocked, how do you manage it? That's when the light comes in. That's when feeding your soul comes in. It's a portal. It opens you up. Then what else? What's next? It helps you to acknowledge certain things. Same thing with yoga. It could be a fucking exercise, or, you know, the only thing it does, it helps to go inside. Same thing with food. When you understand like the energy that is being exchanged between, you know, a tree and yourself, and why trees are best for you any fucking way, because the same type of life, you know, there's the same type of vibration that is being diffused into the tree. It's in you. In that sense, that's when food can help you, but food is not going to make you spiritual, not at all. It helps you to understand that you are spirit, because a lot of us, being in this 3D dimension or the dense dimension, that's what it is. That's why we have to ascend from that dense density or the 3D dimension. You identify yourself with your ego, which is you separate yourself from everything else. Right? So by you doing that, what the fuck was that? I was going to say something here. I kind of lost. And then something else came up in my mind. I'm not lost, but something else came up. It'll come back. But what was I talking about? So I was talking about the ego. I was talking about, yes, imagine this. Because a lot of us, we don't know that we're spirit. If you get into a car accident, you break your leg or one of your legs. This is hypothetical. You may not be able to walk as comfortably as you used to or you were, but it didn't really change you, the person that you are. So, in so many words, you are your body, but you're not your body. And I feel like that's what a lot of people, that's what they don't understand. You know, of course, you embrace everything because you embody it, right? Because death, when you die, what it means is it just, the spirit is no longer part of the form or in the form. Because the form allows you, you know, as you're growing. And this is the travel, I don't want to say the astral travel, but this is the travel that we do on Earth. This is the traveling part. As we're growing within form in our body. You ever had a fucking experience where, you know what I'm saying, maybe if you were to go back to where you used to be when you were a child and then you go back to it, you're like, what the fuck? I know that shit happened to me. You're like, oh, I was living there? You know, because you traveled, not just physically, but spiritually too, in your body and everything else around you. But anyway, I digress. What was the purpose of me talking about this shit? Because I kind of like, I'm trying to make a connection. I felt like I somehow got disconnected, dog. But anyway, the bottom, I mean, again, it's all connected. You know, get ready to suffer, man. Buckle up. I sing. Rah.